sports.com. Last year, Governor Newsom and his crew told President Trump that California was having its hottest and driest weather ever.
We obviously feel very strongly that the hots are getting hotter, the dries are getting drier. When we're having heat domes, the likes of which we've never seen in our history, the hottest August ever in the history of the state, the ferocity of these fires, the drought, 5+ years, losing 163 million trees to that drought. Something's happened to the plumbing of the world. And we come from a perspective, humbly, where we submit the science is in and observed evidence is self-evident.
As the governor said, we've had temperatures explode this summer. You may have learned that we broke a world record in the Death Valley, 130 degrees. But even in greater LA, 120 plus degrees.
They claimed that 130 degrees at Death Valley last year was a world's record. But had they done any actual research, they would have known that during 1 week in 1913, Death Valley went over 130 degrees on 3 days, including 134 degrees on July 10, 1913, which is the official world's record. Earlier this summer, the New York Times repeated the same claim that 130 degrees in Death Valley was a world's record. But in 1930, the New York Times reported that temperatures in Death Valley often go to 130 degrees and higher. And in 1924, they said that the 134 degrees measured in Death Valley was probably actually higher than that. Death Valley is the hottest place in the United States. A Weather Bureau thermometer once recorded a heat of 134 degrees, but that was the limit of the instrument, and it is said the heat was some degrees beyond that limit. And not only was 1913 the hottest it's ever been in California, but it was also the driest. The United States' longest dry spell of 767 days occurred at Baghdad, California, where they received no precipitation from October 3, 1912 to November 8, 1914. Given that there was no rain during 1913 in the California desert, it's not surprising that they set the world's record temperature that year. Newsom's staff also said that 121 degrees around LA was a record, but in 1859 temperatures in Santa Barbara rose to 133 degrees for a few hours. During the afternoon of June 17, 1859, cattle full in the flesh perished in the fields and birds dropped lifeless from the trees from the withering blast. This occurred a few weeks before the largest solar storm ever recorded, the Carrington event. It's almost like the sun controls the climate rather than ignorance and superstition from California government officials. The temperature of 133 degrees in 1859 was only 1 degree short of the record temperature in 1913. 1913 not only brought record heat to the United States and the world, but it also brought some of the worst weather. 9 days of flooding and tornadoes devastated the United States during March of 1913. Omaha, Nebraska was largely destroyed by a tornado which killed more than 300 people. Huge sections of the city looked like this after the March 1913 tornado. After the tornado passed, this guy was found in a tree. That week was described as the greatest cataclysm in American history. The uncontrollable forces of nature, the devastation of Omaha, the trail of the tornado, the flood horrors deathless in Ohio and Indiana. The Washington Post reported, "Flood, flames, famine spread a pall of horror over cities of misery and suffering. Dayton at fire's mercy. Bitter cold adds horror." This is what Ohio looked like during March of 1913, while the California deserts received no rain at all that year. The death-bearing flood at Dayton, where the nation's sympathies are centered. At the same time, this is what upstate New York looked like. Indiana was devastated by a tornado that same week. A line of tornadoes ran from coast to coast. Pennsylvania was devastated by a tornado. Alabama and Kentucky were also devastated by floods and tornadoes. There were floods in Michigan and Missouri. The Mississippi Valley was also devastated by floods. And later that year, Texas had one of their worst floods on record along the Brazos River. This picture was taken a few blocks away from where I purchased my first house in Richmond, Texas. In 1913, the United States was stricken by bad weather, but now we're stricken with bad politicians. Had Gavin Newsom done any actual research, he would have known that California in the past has had droughts which lasted more than 100 years. And this information has been known for a century. It was published in a study in 1922. Not only did the Los Angeles Times used to know about this, but the New York Times did as well. In 1994, the New York Times reported that California's had droughts lasting 220 years. I annotated this graph from the San Jose Mercury News to show Governor Newsom's view of science. These massive multi-century droughts were all natural, but much smaller and much shorter droughts now are man-made. This is what they call science. California is getting slammed with snow and rain again today. I hope that Governor Newsom is staying warm and dry wherever it is he's hiding right now. Toto understands that belief in catastrophic climate change